On the afternoon of May 22, 2020, Pakistan International Airlines Flight 8303 prepared for a routine journey from Lahore to Karachi. On board, 91 passengers and 8 crew members. The aircraft, an Airbus A320, trusted, modern and familiar. But what began as a standard domestic flight would end as one of Pakistan's most shocking aviation tragedies. At 1:05 p.m., the aircraft lifted off the runway in Lahore, climbing smoothly, turning south, heading for Karachi's Jinnah International Airport. The skies were clear, the weather was calm, and for most people on board, this was just another short flight home. In the cockpit sat Captain Sajjad Gul, an experienced pilot with thousands of hours logged. Beside him, Flight Officer Usman, skilled, confident, and familiar with the aircraft. Nothing suggested that anything was wrong, not yet. But as the aircraft approached Karachi, air traffic control noticed something unusual. The flight was high, too high for a standard approach, too high to descend safely to the runway. The controller instructed the pilots to turn left and descend, but moments later, the Airbus was still coming in fast and dangerously high. Inside the cockpit, the workload increased. Alarms began to sound, first quietly, then insistently. The pilots attempted to correct their approach, but the sequence of decisions that followed would put the entire flight at risk. At 10 nautical miles out, the aircraft should have been around 3,000 feet. Instead, it was nearly 7,000 feet. The crew deployed the landing gear, but moments later, they retracted it again. A confusing action, one that would become crucial in the minutes ahead. Ignoring multiple warnings, the pilots continued the approach. The aircraft descended fast, too fast, but the crew pressed on. At this point, Karachi Tower issued a chilling reminder. Confirm landing gear down. The response, we are comfortable, we can make it. But the landing gear was not down. At 1:32 p.m., PIA 8303 crossed the runway threshold. The landing gear still retracted. The Airbus touched down on its engines. Sparks exploded beneath the fuselage. Metal scraped violently across the runway. Both engines tore apart from internal damage as they struck the ground. Passengers felt the aircraft slam, then lift, then shake. The pilots pushed the thrust levers forward. The Airbus struggled back into the air, both engines now critically damaged. The aircraft was airborne, but it was a gliding, dying machine. At 2,000 feet, the engines began to fail. Engine 1 lost power. Then Engine 2 began to surge violently. The cockpit filled with alarms. The first officer issued a desperate call. We have lost engines! Mayday! Mayday! Controllers tried to guide them back, but it was already too late. The aircraft could no longer maintain altitude. It drifted left of the runway, descending, slowing, fighting gravity with every remaining breath of thrust. The city of Karachi stretched beneath them. Homes, roads, neighborhoods. There was no place to land. At 1:35 p.m., the aircraft clipped the roof of a small house, then another. The wings tore apart. Fuel ignited. The Airbus A320 plunged into the crowded neighborhood of Model Colony. A fireball rose into the sky. Homes were engulfed, streets filled with smoke, and chaos erupted as residents rushed toward the flames. In those final seconds, the flight that had seemed so ordinary became one of the most devastating tragedies in Pakistan's aviation history. 97 people lost their lives, passengers, crew, and residents on the ground. Miraculously, 2 passengers survived, pulled from the wreckage alive. Their survival would become symbols of hope in a moment filled with heartache. Families across Pakistan waited for news. For many, answers came slowly, painfully, and incompletely. In the months that followed, investigators pieced together the events. Their findings were stark. The aircraft was too high and too fast on approach. Multiple warnings were ignored. The landing gear was not deployed for touchdown. Engines were destroyed after scraping the runway. The crew attempted a go-around with 2 failing engines. Human factors, stress, distraction, workload, and misjudgment played a major role. There was no evidence of mechanical failure before the engines struck the runway. This tragedy was not caused by machinery, but by a cascade of human errors. PIA 8303 became a turning point, a reminder that in aviation, technology alone cannot guarantee safety. Training matters, discipline matters, communication matters. In the cold world of aviation data, incidents become numbers, charts, reports. But behind every number are lives, families, dreams, stories left unfinished. Today, PIA 8303 stands as a lesson written in tragedy, but remembered in hope. Hope that the mistakes of the past will guide safer skies in the future. Hope that every passenger boarding a plane arrives safely home. And hope that the loss of those 97 souls will never be forgotten